So welcome to my presentation today. Thank you for joining. My name is Gropp and I would like to talk about the digital transformation journey of Klöckner & Co. Klöckner & Co. is a traditional steel trading and distribution company with an over 100 years legacy, founded by Peter Klöckner over 100 years ago in Duisburg, Germany. Today we have about 160 branches across the United States and Europe. We are in a critical and challenging market environment, facing low margins and really hard competition. Our competitors' size is about 3,000 to 5,000 in a high competitive steel market with a lot of pressure about prices. So I would like to talk about the digital journey we did since 2014 today. First of all, some words about myself. As I said, my name is Marcus. I'm 42 years old from Germany, sitting today in my home office here in Münster. I have 2 kids and I would like to give you some insights about my vita. I started in Klöckner last year in February 2019 as head of digital transformation. Before that, I was working for over 13 years in the service provider business, offering, selling and implementing full business process outsourcing business like e-commerce or CRM solutions. So I'm happy here today to talk about the digital transformation story about Klöckner. And I will talk about 5 things. First of all, I will talk about a little bit about the different phases we went through our digital journey. The second point is I would talk briefly about one use case, specific use case, that you can understand what kinds of tools and transformation we face. Third thing is about traps and mistakes. The 4th things I will touch are the success factors which we think and we explored and discovered via our journey. And the 5th thing is I would like to talk about is the business outlook. For example, our new business we accelerated out of the digital transformation. So let me just start, talk a little bit about Klöckner and the steel distribution industry. The steel distribution industry still today is a very traditional one. It's really, as I said, based on low margins and inefficiencies. It's a very traditional business, and traditional means we are traditional in business behavior and business habits. We are traditional in sales, we are traditional in procurement, and we are really traditional in logistics and operations. We offer the full range of products in our assortment. So you can buy tubes, you can buy flat steel, heavy sections, whatever. And we buy this, we keep this in our warehouse. Sometimes we do sawing or other higher valued services. And then we deliver this with our own fleet or with third-party trucks to our customers. Our customers are big ones, like big wharves, building ships or airplanes, or the automobile industry, and small ones like this shop next to you or the small machine manufacturer with maybe 1 or 10 million in revenue. It's a wide range and it's really high competitive because our competitions are not the big distributors linked to the mills like ThyssenKrupp or ArcelorMittal. No, our biggest competition are really the small independent steel distributors, and just in Europe we have more than 5,000. These are family owned, independent, and they are still surviving. And this is a pain, especially for big corporations, because our company is about 6.5 billion euros in revenue, and we have more than 7,000 employees. So we are a corporation, we are stock listed, and this is of course a challenge for us in this high competitive market. So back in 2014, and I will start now with the different phases we approached. Our CEO, Gisbert Rühl, was traveling like many CEOs, to the Silicon Valley. And he was at first glance interested, of course, how Google, Facebook, Amazon are doing their business in the Valley. But he was also having a question in mind: what if someone from the Valley or someone from a different business model will enter our traditional steel distribution industry? So what if Amazon enters our business? Because, I mean, they have the platform. They maybe cannot distribute steel because it's really, really complicated, but they can open a marketplace for it, and others do the distribution. So having this question in mind, he was really concerned that someone from outside will maybe invade our business field and maybe push us away, push us out of the market. So he went to the Valley. He was thrilled about how companies work, the habits, the mindset, how they invent, how they test and try out. And especially when you come from very traditional industry business, even here from Germany, which is very much influenced by engineers, by precise technology, by heavy planning, precise planning, and not doing so much experiments, then it's really a culture mindset shift. And he was very much thrilled, and he said when he came back to Duisburg, to the Ruhr area, which is characterized by traditional industry companies and maybe traditional thinking, he said, okay, we have to do something different. First of all, we need a different mindset, and the second thing is we need to do something against maybe the disruptive invader from outside who maybe push us out of the business. So at this stage, he had two options. Either he will start this project within the old traditional company Klöckner, meaning in Duisburg in the headquarters, with the traditional people and their mindset, or he set up a speedboat in a different working environment. So he decided for option 2, and he went to Berlin. Berlin is in Germany really the small Silicon Valley of Germany. And he decided, okay, I need to open there a digital hub with different people, different mindset, and give them the freedom, the budget, and the management attention to develop ideas. So he did this, and he hired 2 or 3 young management trainees and also 2 or 3 people from the startup scene in Berlin. And he rented a space, a co-working space, and then they started working. So, of course, and I come back later to the successful, a lot of companies are doing so or did this same approach, and a lot of companies failed. I think what we did at this stage in a very, very positive way was that after setting up the infrastructure, he really, and our CEO really defined clear goals for the whole company. And he came back and said, okay, we have now smart people, we have a good digital environment there, but what we need now is goals. And what he did back in 2015, he said, okay, I really declare a clear goal for everyone, and this is that Klöckner & Co., the traditional steel distribution company, will do 60% sales, 60% digital sales within 2022. And you have to imagine that this company had 0% digital sales at this stage. And so this was really, really a big goal, and most of the people in Klöckner, they were not able to understand what this goal means and how to achieve this goal. So And this was a very important phase because this was more or less than really the kickoff of the digital journey. What we then did, to summarize this very much, is that we really took over the agile working procedures from the Silicon Valley and started to develop MVPs, pilots, and doing experiments. We did ideations with customers and employees. We tried to find out what are the best tools to develop in order to be the first in the market, in the steel market, to be the disruptive player. Our goal, besides the 60%, was keeping the competition, especially the disruptive competition, away. So our goal was that we are prepared if Amazon enters the market. So we started, as a lot of companies did in the past and do today, we started with a classical web shop. Bringing online 60,000 different products with multiple variances in the steel market is really complex. This is not like shoes or shirts. This is a complex thing. What we started with MVPs, we started with one country, we started with one product family, and then we extended step by step by step. The main driver were in Berlin, in the digital hub. We call this Klöckner.ai. They had the freedom to do the project very much independent, and they put the speed. The people in the German organization in Klöckner, they were not part of the project, I would say. They were maybe audience, but not in the driver's seat. So why did we do this? We did this because there was so much politics and traditional thinking in the company that we found out it's not possible to bring the people on the table at this stage. So the company did something very unusual, especially for traditional and especially for German companies. They really started the MVP. They developed the web shop. They connected this to the backend SAP and they went live. And as I said, the traditional organization was not so much involved. Of course, they were involved because they need to influence the processes. But I would say from concept and design, the driver's seat was really in Berlin. Of course, this caused a lot of clashes and discussions, fights, and a lot of politics. But the top management always supports this approach. So the end of the discussion were there when the board stepped in and said, okay, we do this and stop the discussion. So this phase, when we rolled out MVPs with a web shop in Europe, but also then in the US, with part manager or consignment tools, we call this. This was really the phase where we tried to involve more and more the people from the traditional organization to convince them and tell them here really, this is a key instrument for you. It makes life easier. It brings value to the customer. This phase, I think, took about 3 to 4 years. And I think it was in 2017-18 when the company realized that they need an alignment and more alignment between the speedboat, disruptive speedboat in Berlin, the Klöckner.ai, and the traditional organization. And they found out that there's a need to bring the people together, and culture-wise, but also process-wise, because we also found out that you can be disruptive, but you need to control your processes. And this is, of course, something which brings me to traps and mistakes. For example, when we rolled out our shop, and we rolled it out by a design in Berlin, and we didn't care about the processes, operational processes. What happened was funny things that, for example, you were able, for example, in Germany, to buy a big steel beam in Munich, and the problem was it was maybe delivered from Hamburg, which is about 800 kilometers away. So of course this destroys your margin. And the second thing, for example, also funny thing which we haven't had in our mind, was, for example, that people were able to order products and pick up every delivery address. So it might be that a huge truck was ordered to go to a residential area. Yeah. So and this of course caused a lot of trouble. And I think one mistake we did at this stage is that we haven't thought about all the processes. We haven't involved our operational guys at a level which we maybe could avoid this kind of mistakes. In 2018, 2019, we realized that we are at a certain level of our digital revenue, and we saw, okay, to bring it after 30% to the 60% in 2022, we really need to accelerate this. We have really good tools at the market. We had a shop, we had the part manager, we had the consignment, we had introduced a lot of self-service. We introduced also a pricing affinity, we call this. But we also found out, okay, it's now really a time that we bring people more together. And this is meant by a cultural way, but also on a process and business understanding way. So at this time, the company thought, okay, we need maybe a bridge builder and another team which brings the old traditional Klöckner world and the new modern Klöckner.I world together. And by that time, they decided to build up a digital transformation team, global digital transformation team within Klöckner, which I'm heading today. And now we have three parties in the boat. We have the Klöckner.I as our digital hub. They develop the products. And we have the country organization, which consume and adapt the products. And my team is now in the middle. And the major task is really to build a cultural bridge, bringing people together, that they are able to understand each other. The second thing is that we streamline processes, bringing the modern processes and the traditional processes together. And the third thing is, of course, to take care of project implementation and monitoring, and making sure that with our digital projects we achieve effects. And I think this is at this stage an important phase, which we are currently. This started in 2019, when also our shareholders and investors asking, okay, what is now the result of digitalization? Okay, there's a strategic component and a customer component, but what is with EBIT or EBITDA effects? And during this time, in 2000, at the beginning of this year, our CEO really set new targets. Besides 60%, he said, okay, we really need to achieve 100 million euros in EBITDA within the next 3 years to out of the digitalization. So we really need to achieve process cost savings or margin increases out of the digitalization. And this was really, I would say, another acceleration of the strategy, and really shows the people within Klöckner, but also the stakeholders, that we really make it serious and say, okay, we would like to make the most of our investments, which we did in the last years. This is the stage in which we are beside all the corona, and we are currently really focusing on tools which really contribute an impact. And I think this is also, and now I'm coming to the success factors, a very important point. You really need, I think this is the first one, to define clear goals of your digital transformation. The second one is you really need to have backup and long-term backup from top management, CEO, or the company owner. The third one is digital transformation is a long-term thing, a minimum 3 to 5 years. This is not just a short story. The fourth thing is you really need budget which is relevant and can move the needle. And the fifth one is really, it's about digital and transformation. Digital means very often that companies focus on tools, on technical tools only. But this is not the full story, or it's just 50% of the story. The other 50% is really business transformation. Business transformation means transformation of culture, but not culture only. Business processes, business rules. This is really much important. And I think most of the companies, and also Klöckner, very, very much focused, especially at the beginning of the journey, on the digital tools only. And they forget to align the organization. And this is even, I would say personally, the hardest part. Technology you can pay, you can build, you can buy, but transformation in an organization and culture shift, this is really a process which takes time, management attention, and also sometimes changing people or exchanging people. And the last, I think most important, the last, not most important, but the last success factor I would like to mention is reflect and adjust. You really need to sit down from time to time and reflect about your strategy, about your goals, all the success factor I mentioned, and then to adjust. If you see that a tool is not working, the effect is not there, then adjust. If you see, for example, the customers are not accepting the web shop, develop new tools. And this is very much important. And I think this was also coming back maybe 1 second to some traps and mistakes. Sometimes you're very much convinced that a tool which others also implement is valid for your business. We discovered this with a web shop. The web shop, of course, was a lighthouse project at the beginning. And we had the idea that our customers may adapt. But we found out is that the customers are very, very traditional and they haven't changed their behavior. The customers really refuse to buy online. They have high usage about the shop itself. So they use it as a shopping window, or they use it for their self-service, checking invoices, payment, etc. But they really having trouble to buy online. So what we did then is said, okay, if we cannot change the customer, we have to change. And we found out, for example, that we receive in an average year about 10 million order lines. We found out that most of the order lines were entered manually. We have some EDI, okay, and some web shop, but I would say 70-80% are entered manual by our people. So we found out, okay, this is really something we should focus on. Because the customers, they send their request or their orders via PDF, via email, some fax, some also via phone. And we said, okay, if we cannot change the customers, we have to change. And what we currently implementing very much successful is what we call Clerk Assistant. We have built up a tool where we really digitalize the PDF or email and bring this into our ERP systems, and we get rid of the work. So this is also linked to reflect and adjust, but also it's sometimes a trap that you stick too long to different tools. So be open-minded, reflect yourself, don't stick too much to to tools. And in the last 2 or 3 minutes, I would like to give you a short overview of business which we also accelerate out of the digital transformation. Because after having experience with a lot of MVPs, tools, process adjustments, we of course sometimes have new ideas. And one idea was the XOM platform, XOM Materials we call it, where we said, okay, we build up a platform where we bring together the mills and big customers, and we're doing a marketplace for them on one side. And on the other side, we also found out that this platform has also potential to be a good procurement tool for companies which are in this kind of industry. So we are very much successful with this company as well. And it's independent from our core company. And it was the idea was built up in the Clerk organization and Clerk.ai, and we set up a startup. So, and this is also a good example that you can build up new business out of traditional business and during this digital transformation. So I'm finished now with my presentation. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'm open for questions now. Thank you very much and stay healthy.